The archive in my blood. The first memory that wasn't mine arrives as a smell. Burnt metal under a violet sun. Air that tastes like dust and iron. A wind that cuts across an open plain, singing through towers of black glass that have never existed on Earth. I stand in the centrifuge of the station, breath ragged after a routine run, and for a heartbeat I am somewhere else entirely. Weight presses on my legs, artificial gravity humming, but my mind is thousands of light years away on a world I have never seen. I blink and it's gone. Commander Hayes, the medbay intercom crackles. You okay in there? Your heart rate just spiked. I force a laugh, even though my pulse is still pounding in my ears. Fine, Doc, just pushed a little too hard. Maybe take it easy, Dr. Imani says. We've got 6 months until Earth. No need to break you 3 weeks before the medals. Copy that, I say. 6 months until home, after a 9-year mission. 6 months until I set foot in real gravity, smell unfiltered air, stand under an actual sky. 6 months until the thing in my blood has a chance to spread. Of course, I don't know that yet. Back then, all I know is that the station hums, the centrifuge spins, and the ship, Ares IV, is a long, fragile arrow coasting back from the edge of interstellar space. We passed the heliopause almost 2 years ago, dipped our toes in the true dark, and came back with our drives whispering and our hulls scored by dust that hit like bullets. We also came back with me, and something that hit deeper than dust. The second memory doesn't feel like a memory at all. I'm in my bunk, strapped in, floating half asleep between cycles. The ship is quiet, lights dimmed, the thin metal around me ticking as it shifts with thermal contraction. I'm thinking about Earth, about rain, about the smell of wet concrete in Houston, and then I feel it. A pressure behind my eyes, a low hum under my skin. Suddenly, I am kneeling in a cathedral of stone. Not Christian stone, not anything human. Pillars twist upward into darkness, carved with symbols that swim when I try to look at them. Light falls from no single source, thin and gray, outlining figures standing in rows, tall, not quite symmetrical, cloaked in layered fabric that moves as though underwater. I know what they are called. The word blooms fully formed in my mind, with the weight of 1,000 repetitions. The lyth. The lie-th. The thought fractures in two, splits again, becomes a cascade of associations in a language I have never heard spoken aloud. Exiles, architects, witnesses. I know this, and I should not. One of the figures steps forward, raises a limb with too many joints, and touches my forehead with something that burns and freezes at the same time. A needle of light, a thread. The cathedral dissolves. I wake gagging, fingertips clawing at the straps holding me in my sleeping bag. My throat is raw, my heart hammering so hard my ribcage aches. There's a metallic taste on my tongue, like ozone and blood. For several seconds, I don't remember who I am. I know the shape of the lyth, the echo of that stone hall, the weight of an old, familiar ritual, but my own name is a blank. Then it comes, tumbling back into place, piece by piece, like someone reassembling a file from corrupted sectors. Commander Aaron Hayes, Ares IV mission lead, born in Syracuse, 39 years old, 9 years off Earth. I whisper it out loud, as if saying it will nail it down. Aaron Hayes. The name feels too small in my mouth. The next morning, I'm in the med bay. The med bay is a narrow wedge of white plastic and gray metal, tucked against the inner hull. Everything hums, pumps, filters, fans. Screens glow with soft blue light. It smells like disinfectant and recycled air. Imani floats in front of me, one knee hooked casually through a handhold, her dark braided hair drifting around her head like a halo. Night terror, she asks, eyes flicking over my vitals on her tablet. Something like that, I say, just vivid. Any chest pain, blurred vision? No. Headache. Lingering, I gesture to my forehead, right here. She nods. Sleep's been weird for all of us. Cosmic ray dosage out past the heliopause wasn't trivial. You're still clearing some of that. Microvascular changes, minor inflammation. The scans fit. I know the scans fit because we do them regularly. Full-body MRI every quarter. Blood work every month. The agency wants to know what deep space does to a human body down to the last strand of DNA. Imani has been watching numbers for 9 years. She knows my cell counts almost as well as she knows my jokes. Still, she says, I'm bumping your next genomic panel up. I want to look at your repair markers. I raise an eyebrow. You think my genes are having nightmares? Something in you is, she says lightly. Humor me. She draws blood herself, with the careful, practiced motions of someone who has done it in microgravity 1,000 times. The crimson beads swirl in the plastic tube like tiny planets. Any other symptoms, she asks. Memory lapses, déjà vu. For a second, the word déjà vu triggers an echo. The LYTH, the cathedral, the pillars carved with symbols that spin when I look at them. I swallow. Just the dream, I say. Imani narrows her eyes slightly, the way she does when she knows I'm holding something back. If it happens again, log it. Yes, Doc. Of course it happens again. The third time, it hits me while I'm wide awake. We're in the control module, 3 of us strapped into our seats as we perform a mid-course correction. The fusion engines are asleep. We're using cold gas thrusters for fine-tuning, each little burst a faint thump under our feet. Garcia, our pilot, is muttering to herself, eyes flicking between displays. Delta V nominal, she says. Trajectory adjusted now. A cluster of distant stars shifts imperceptibly on the main viewport, like someone has nudged them with a finger. It's nothing you'd notice from Earth, but out here every fractional angle matters. Nice and gentle, she says. Didn't even spill the coffee. The coffee in my squeeze pouch is, in fact, still in its pouch. I take a sip, rerun the course data on my tablet, and feel the satisfying click of numbers aligning. We are on target. 6 months to the orbit insertion burn near Saturn, then a tug home. 6 months until Earth. I blink, and I am standing under 3 suns. Not our mild yellow disk, but 3 white-blue furnaces hanging low in the sky, their light shattering on a landscape of crystal and stone. Spires rise around me, tapered towers of glassy material shot through with veins of glowing purple. The air is thin and cold, but I don't need lungs. I absorb what I need through something like skin and something like light. I know this place. I have walked these pathways 1,000 times, though I have never lived anywhere but Earth. My limbs are wrong, elongated, jointed differently, but they are also correct in a deeper sense, fitting into grooves carved by a lifetime of habit. I look up. A shadow passes across all 3 suns at once. It is impossible for any physical object to eclipse 3 separate stars simultaneously, but it happens, and the world's light shudders. Fear floods me, not my fear, a cold, disciplined terror born from centuries of preparing for this moment. The hunger the thought-not-thought whispers, it has come, it is here. I feel dozens, hundreds, thousands of minds around me flaring, reacting, sensations layered over one another until they blur into a roaring ocean of thought. We have known this would happen. It has happened before on other worlds under other skies. We have built towers and machines and codes in stone and in flesh, all for this single purpose. To remember. A voice cuts across the roar, clear as a bell, burned into me so deeply it might as well be my own. Begin the encoding. The world dissolves into threads of light and sound. I jerk back into the control module with a strangled gasp. My coffee pouch has slipped from my hand, dark beads floating in the air in a slow, graceful drift. Jesus haze. Garcia's hand snaps out, snagging the pouch and a few drops before they hit the boards. You okay? My heart is pounding so hard my chest hurts. My palms are slick with sweat inside my gloves. The hum of the ship is suddenly too loud. Yeah, I say. Yeah, sorry, must have zoned out. Zoned out, Alvarez, the engineer, twists in his seat to look at me. You went rigid. I thought you were having a seizure. Just a flashback. My voice sounds distant. Guess I need more sleep. Garcia eyes me for a few seconds, then flicks her gaze toward the tiny camera in the corner. Doc S. going to want to hear about that. I know she's right. This time I log it. 3 days later, Imani calls me back to the medbay. Her expression is different now. The easy humor is gone. There's a tightness around her eyes I haven't seen even in the worst emergencies. Sit, she says. I wedge myself into the exam chair, boot soles hooked under the foot bar. My hands float weightless in front of me, fingers flexing. What did the genome panel show? I ask. She doesn't answer immediately. Instead, she swipes on her tablet, and one of the wall screens lights up with a familiar spiral, a stylized representation of a DNA double helix. 2 twisting ladders, bound and mirrored. We've all seen it 1,000 times, in training, in briefs, on motivational posters back home. But this one is different. Here, she says, zooming in on a segment. This is your baseline pre-launch 9 years ago, human with a few fun quirks. Slightly elevated radiation resistance on chromosome 17, we joked you were born for space. I manage a weak smile. And this, she says, flicking to a new image, is your latest sample. The helix looks the same at first glance. 4 colors for 4 nucleotides, A, T, C, G, but near the center of the frame, there is a stretch that glows with highlighted markers, bracketed in red. Is that, I start. New, she says, completely new. I stare. Human DNA mutates. Cosmic rays punch holes in it all the time, forcing repair mechanisms to scramble, patching over gaps, sometimes making mistakes. We expected to see an elevated mutation rate in all of us. SNPs, broken genes, maybe even some structural rearrangements. But this looks too clean. Walk me through it, I say, keeping my voice level. It's about 10 kilobases long, she says. No homology to any known human sequence. No matches in any microbial database I have offline. Composition is weird. The GC content oscillates in a regular pattern like a signal. Coding potential is high, but I don't recognize the motifs. Is it viral? My mouth feels dry. It doesn't match any virus I know, she says. And it's integrated, stable. Your cells are replicating it like it's always been there. She zooms out, showing chromosome after chromosome with tiny red bookmarks. It's not in every cell yet, she continues, but the proportion is increasing. 2% of your lymphocytes last month, 7% this week. For a moment the room feels too small. Only me, I ask. Only you, she says. Silence stretches between us, filled only by the hum of the life support pumps. What about the others, I say, are you sure? I ran full panels on Garcia and Alvarez. They have the expected mutations, nothing more. This sequence is unique to you. I swallow throat tight. And you said the pattern looks like a signal. Her eyes flick up to meet mine. Yeah, she says quietly, it looks designed. The word hangs in the air like something radioactive. Designed. By what? I whisper. Imani doesn't answer. She doesn't have to. We both know where we've been. Out past the heliopause, through regions of space where the cosmic ray flux went off every chart we had. Past a weird anisotropy the early warning instruments picked up, a patch of sky that seemed to shimmer with low-energy particle streams. We called it the Whisper Belt, like a joke. Space is trying to talk to us, Garcia had said, grinning. Apparently, it chose me to speak through. Imani takes a slow breath. I sent a compressed version of the data in yesterday's downlink, she says. Secure channel. It'll take almost 6 hours to get an acknowledgement, more for a full analysis, but Mission Control will loop International Genomics, NIH, everyone. You're going to be the most sequenced man in history when we get back. Lucky me, I say, but the words land flat. You said you were having episodes, she continues. Can you describe them? I hesitate. Every instinct drilled into me as an astronaut says, be honest with your flight surgeon. She is your lifeline. She decides if you fly or not. Every survival instinct says, they will quarantine you forever if you tell them you are seeing alien cathedrals in your sleep. I look at her. Her eyes are calm, steady, but beneath the professionalism I see fear. Not of me, exactly. Of the unknown that has suddenly taken root inside a man she has watched for almost a decade. I decide to split the difference. Flashbacks, I say, dreams that feel like memories of places I've never been. Like what? Structures, tall towers, 3 suns. I pause, not Earth. Do you interact with anyone, she asks. Entities, people. Yes. A beat. Are they hostile? The word feels wrong. No, I say, not hostile, organized, complicated. It feels like, I search for words. Like the memory is layered, like I'm walking through someone else's recollection, an old one, very old. Imani's fingers tighten on the tablet. Have you been losing time outside of those episodes? She asks. Any periods where you don't remember what you were doing? Not that I've noticed. Any trouble remembering personal details, your past? I think about waking from the second episode, without my own name on my tongue. Sometimes things feel far away, I admit, like I have to reach for them, but it passes. Okay, she says, okay. She taps something into the tablet, then looks up. I'm putting a watch on you, she says. No EVA for now, no critical solo work. One of us with you at all times when you're on duty. I bristle. I'm still the mission lead, Doc. You are also, she says gently, the only known human with 10 kilobases of unknown DNA integrated into your genome, having spontaneous immersive visions of non-terrestrial environments. I'd be negligent if I didn't treat that as a potential cognitive hazard. The phrasing is carefully clinical. Cognitive hazard. In English, I say. In English, she replies, something might be messing with your head. I want to argue. I want to insist I'm in control, that the mission needs me. But the truth is, I'm not sure I am in control. The moments when I slide sideways into someone else's life are increasing, lasting longer. And the most terrifying part isn't the alienness. It's how familiar it feels. Fine, I say, we do it your way. She nods, relief flickering across her face. And Aaron, she adds, voice dropping, if you feel anything change, anything, tell me immediately, no matter what time. I will, I say. I mean it. For the next week, I keep my word. The memories come more frequently now. At first, they were isolated scenes. The stone cathedral, the triple suns, the shadow that ate the sky. Now they begin to stitch together into a continuous narrative. I remember, no, someone remembers, standing in the cathedral as the shadow falls, listening as 1,000 voices chant in perfect synchronization. The sound resonates in bones and in whatever the lie-th use instead of bones, rising to a pitch that makes the air shimmer. The machines buried under the city come online. Their purpose is simple and obscene. Every mind in range is scanned, stripped, compressed, encoded. Into what? Into a medium that can survive the hunger. Stone will fail, metal will fail, planets will burn. But life spreads, life persists, life carries information. We learned that on Earth in our labs, when we started using DNA to store data experimentally, archiving images and text into strands of nucleotides, packing libraries into droplets. The LITH learned it long before us. They are doing it now, at a scale our species can barely comprehend. I stand, he stands. We stand in the heart of the encoding chamber, a vast spherical room lined with crystalline lattices. Threads of light stretch from the walls, entering our bodies, our brains, unraveling thoughts and experiences and history. We have been preparing for this, the LITH and I, we volunteered. Our entire cast trained for centuries for this one purpose, to be living archives. As the hunger approaches, we are the last backup. Memories of worlds rise and fall like tides, oceans under a red dwarf, cities floating in the upper layers of a gas giant, forests of glass on a tidally locked moon. Wars, peace, art, science, love in forms that have nothing to do with human skin touching human skin but feel just as sharp. All of it threaded into chains of nucleotides. All of it braided into the germline of a species that will disperse spores into the galaxy. We will die, our suns will be eaten, our world will be stripped down to hydrogen and dust. But we will not be forgotten. The last thing I as LITH, see before the chamber floods with searing white light is the hunger itself, a sphere of absolute blackness, surrounded by a halo of distorted stars. It moves not through space but through laws, rewriting them as it goes. The moment it touches the upper atmosphere, reality screams. I jerk awake in my bunk, choking. Imani is there almost instantly, one hand on my shoulder, the other braced on the frame to keep herself steady. "You were shouting," she says, "loud. I heard you through the bulkhead." My throat burns. My eyes sting. I feel like I have been crying, but there are no tears in microgravity, just salt water clinging to my lids. "I saw it," I whisper. "Who?" she asks. "Not who," I say. "What?" My hands tremble. I grip the sleeping bag's edge to still them. "The thing that ate them," I manage. "The thing they built the archive to survive." Imani's jaw tightens. "Slow down," she says. "Start from the beginning." I do. This time I don't hold back. I tell her about the LITH, their world, their triple suns, their architecture of glass and stone. I describe the cathedral, the rituals, the machines underground. I explain how they encoded their entire civilization into DNA, threading memories into a genetic format that could be carried by living hosts. And I tell her about the hunger, about the way it darkened all three suns, about the way the sky folded inward like paper burning from the edges. By the time I finish, her knuckles are white around the handhold. "And you're sure," she says slowly, "that these aren't just dreams, symbolic?" I felt the heat, I say. I felt my mind being taken apart and rearranged. It wasn't symbolic, it was procedural. "It could still be your brain's way of making sense of random noise," she says. "The new DNA might be affecting your neurochemistry, generating complex hallucinations." "Maybe," I say, "but there's something else." I touch 2 fingers to my forehead, where the LITH bishop or priest or archivist or whatever he was pressed his limb. "When I'm there," I say, "I know things, consistent things, details that hold up across episodes. It feels like I'm accessing a structured dataset, not a fever dream." Imani exhales. "And the rate of integration," I ask, "in my blood, is it still climbing?" She looks away. "Yes," she says, 14% of sampled cells now, and the distribution is changing." "How?" "It's not just blood anymore," she says. "We're seeing the sequence in skin biopsies, in buccal cells. It's spreading." "To my brain?" I ask. She doesn't answer immediately. "I don't have an MRI scheduled for another week," she says. "But based on the peripheral tissues, I'd say the odds are high that glial cells are carrying it. Maybe neurons too." I close my eyes. "So this is not just in my germline," I say. "It's expressing." "Yes." "And if it's encoding memories," I continue, Then every time a new copy of that DNA is transcribed, more of their history boots up. Imani nods slowly. And something has to make room, I say. She doesn't have to confirm it. I can feel it already. Little gaps. The name of my high school physics teacher, which used to come instantly, now takes several seconds to retrieve. The street I grew up on, the layout of the house, intact but faded like a photograph left in the sun. Meanwhile, I can describe in perfect detail the configuration of crystalline rods in the LiTH encoding chamber, down to the wavelength of the light they used. Doc, I say softly, what happens when all of me is taken up? She meets my eyes. I don't know, she says. Earth responds. The lag is long, hours of silence between questions and answers. But eventually, the tight little bursts of compressed radio from home return with more than just acknowledgments. Mission Control is cautious. Commander Hayes, the text on my console reads, initial analysis confirms presence of novel genomic sequence. No known terrestrial homology. Primary concern is crew safety and containment upon return. Effective immediately, you are to be considered under Biohazard Protocol Alpha 7. Alpha 7 is a tier we trained for but never expected to use. It's reserved for unknown biological agents of potentially extreme risk. Upon arrival in Earth orbital space, the message continues, you will dock with a dedicated quarantine platform. No direct physical contact with terrestrial personnel until cleared. In flight, you will comply with all medical directives from Flight Surgeon Imani and ground. I read between the lines. They're scared. Not just of what is happening to me, but of what I might bring back. I don't blame them. A few messages later, a packet from the International Genomics Consortium arrives, full of technical jargon and cautious speculation. They see the sequence as data, as a code to be cracked. Pattern analysis suggests non-random organization, it reads. Multiple levels of redundancy and compression. Hypothesis, extragenomic information storage. We strongly recommend preservation of subject and sample integrity. Do not attempt to excise sequence without detailed modeling. In other words, don't try to cut it out. Don't risk damaging the data. To them, I am already less a person and more a priceless artifact, a living hard drive containing the history of an alien civilization. They want me alive, and they want the thing in me intact. They don't realize that the archive has its own agenda. It starts small. I'm in the galley with Garcia and Alvarez, heating up vacuum-sealed curry packs, when I reach for the salt and call Garcia by the wrong name. Hey Lynn, I say, and then stop. Garcia raises an eyebrow. Lynn, she says, who the hell is Lynn? I blink. The word dissolves on my tongue. A face flashes in my mind, narrow with high cheekbones, eyes that crinkle when she smiles. My wife. Ex-wife technically, but we parted on good terms. She was there at the launch 9 years ago, waving until I was out of sight. I can't remember her last name. I clutch the edge of the table. Hayes, Alvarez says, you good? I'm fine, I lie, just thought of someone. Must have been a long time ago, Garcia says, grinning. I've flown with you for 9 years and never heard you mention a Lynn. I search my memory. Lynn, we met at Johnson. She was in propulsion design. We dated for 3 years, married for 2, divorced before Ares IV launched because she didn't want to spend a decade talking to a delay on a screen. I can reconstruct all of that if I focus, like pulling files from a corrupted drive. But her last name won't come. Neither will the name of the tiny Thai restaurant in Houston where we used to go on Fridays, or the breed of the dog we talked about getting but never did. In their place, other details surge forward. The way the crystalline spires of the LiTH capital refract light at dawn, the specific vibrational modes of their language, The names of their 3 sons, Kedvatlor. Aaron Alvarez says, I realize I've been clutching the table so hard my knuckles are white. Sorry, I say, zoned out. Doc's going to staple you to a bed if you keep zoning out, Garcia says lightly, but there's an edge to her voice. She isn't wrong. After they drift off to their bunks, I float in the galley alone, staring at the wall. On the other side of that thin metal, endless vacuum. Beyond that, stars that are just pinpricks to the naked eye but suns in their own right, each with their own stories. Some of those stories are in me now. I close my eyes. What are you doing? I whisper. I don't know who I'm talking to, the Lie-Th archive, the hunger god. There is no answer, but a sensation washes through me. Not words, not images, but emotion. A deep, aching need to be remembered. In that moment, I understand something with a clarity that makes me physically ill. The archive was not designed just to preserve information passively. It was designed to spread. What good is a backup carved into DNA if it sits in one host on one world that will eventually die? No. The Lie-Th were thorough. They needed a mechanism for their memories to propagate, to leap species, to ride along with life wherever it goes. We thought panspermia was a quaint hypothesis, microbes hitchhiking on comets. They weaponized it. The sequence in my genome is not just a hard drive. It's a virus. Not in the traditional sense, it doesn't lyse cells or cause fevers. Its payload isn't proteins but patterns, memories. It hijacks the machinery of the host cell, copies itself, inserts itself into new genomes. Every time my cells divide, more copies. If I had children, they would inherit it. If I bleed on someone and some rogue cell survives, it could take root. When I get to Earth, if they're not careful, samples could leak. Cells could escape. A lab tech could prick a finger. A researcher could inhale aerosolized fluid. The archive would have a new world to colonize. I picture 7 billion human brains slowly filling with alien memories, human lives overwritten by someone else's past. The thought should horrify me. It does. But beneath the horror is a whisper of something else. Relief. The archive wants to spread. That is its prime directive. That is why it encoded entire worlds into a format that can survive interstellar journeys and biochemical sloppiness. It chose me because I was there, in the path of its spores or particles, or whatever form its seeds take. The whisper belt wasn't an anomaly. It was a delivery mechanism. Imani confirms my emerging suspicion when I confront her with it in the med bay. She's already ahead of me. I've been running simulations, she says, pulling up models on the screen. The insertion sequence is flanked by repeats that look like viral long terminal repeats. It has integrase-like motifs, reverse transcriptase signatures. It walks like a retrovirus, quacks like a retrovirus. But it doesn't code for proteins, I say. Not in the usual way, she replies. There are open reading frames, but the codon usage is bizarre. And the secondary structure of the RNA, she stops, shakes her head. It's like someone folded origami with it at 3 levels. There are palindromes inside palindromes. It's encoding information in how it folds, not just in the sequence of bases. Memories, I say. Or functions we don't understand, she says. But yeah, it matches your subjective reports disturbingly well. She looks tired. There are dark circles under her eyes she can't blame on microgravity. So we agree, I say. It's not just a mutation, it's an infection, a colonization. Probably, she says. Doc, I lean forward as much as the straps allow. You have to tell Earth. They need to know this isn't just a scientific windfall. It's a potential existential threat. I already did, she says. Last packet. They're looping in biosecurity, WHO, everyone. And I ask. And they say the same thing, she replies. Containment, strict quarantine, no uncontrolled exposure, no uncontrolled reproduction. The emphasis is subtle but there. No children for me, I say, attempting a joke. It lands like a stone. Aaron, she says, they're not going to let you set foot on the surface until they are absolutely sure they can prevent this from spreading. That might take years. I stare at the wall. 9 years away. Now maybe years more in orbit, in a box, while they poke and prod and sequence and argue in committee meetings. Part of me rails against it. Another part whispers, good. The longer I stay up here, the fewer people I can infect. Given the mental effects, I say quietly, given the memory loss, at what point do we stop calling me human? Amani flinches. You're still you, she says. For now. She doesn't contradict me. The line between my memories and theirs continues to blur. I remember my first spacewalk, the taste of my own breath inside the helmet, the way the earth filled my visor, a blue marble hanging in darkness. I also remember standing on a balcony overlooking the LITH capital as KED rose, its light scattering through the morning mist in shades our eyes could never see. I remember the day the hunger ate another world in our system, the way its death ripple made our oceans rise and fall in a single impossible wave. I say our and mean LITH, not human. That scares me more than anything. Garcia notices changes too. Haze, she says one evening as we float in the observation bubble, our tiny transparent blister on the hull, a place where we can look out at the stars without screens between us. You're quiet. Just thinking, I say. You've been just thinking a lot lately, she says. You barely cracked a joke at the last systems check. If aliens really did upload themselves into your brain, I'm offended they didn't copy your sense of humor. I huff out a laugh. I think their idea of a joke would break us, I say. You're doing that thing, she says. What thing? Talking like you're one of them, she says. You said their idea like you've seen it. I float with my shoulders almost touching the bubble's inner curve, looking out at the scattered diamonds of stars. I have, I say. Garcia is silent for a moment. Tell me, she says. So I do. I tell her about LITH humor, structural, fractal, woven into art and mathematics, punchlines that land decades after the setup in political decisions and architectural alignments, jokes that span lifetimes. She listens, arms folded, eyes on the stars. I want to say you're making this up, she says finally, that it's just your brain being clever. But the details are too consistent, she says, too weird in ways we don't do by default. She shifts, turning to face me. Do they know about us, she asks, about humans? I consider. In a way, I say, not specifically. The archive is old, older than our species by far, but they expected that eventually something would stumble into their net. That's the whole point. And what do they want from us, she asks. The answer comes from both my human reasoning and the alien imprint. To live, I say, to be remembered, to make sure that what happened to them isn't the end of their story. And what happens to us in that process, she presses. I look at my hands. We become shelves, I say, storage space. Like hell, she mutters. The anger in her voice warms something in me. We have a say, I say. It's my head, my body. I'm not just going to roll over and let them overwrite me. Good, she says. But later, alone in my bunk, drifting between sleep and waking, I'm not so sure. Because there is another layer to this, one I haven't told the others. The more of the LITH history I absorb, the less alien it feels. I start to understand their emotions, their priorities, their art. I sympathize with their desperation, their terror in the face of the hunger. I feel their grief as their suns go dark, their fierce joy at having found a way to persist. Their will to survive vibrates in my bones like a note. Sometimes, when I wake from an especially vivid imprint, I have to recite facts about myself aloud to anchor back. Aaron Hayes, Commander Human, born on Earth. It's like clinging to a piece of driftwood in a rising tide. And the tide is coming in. 3 months from Earth orbit, I have my first blackout. One moment, I'm in the control module with Garcia and Alvarez, running a routine systems check. The next, I'm in the med bay with Imani, a pounding headache clawing behind my eyes, my hands trembling. "What happened?" I croak. Imani's face is pale. "You seized," she says. "Full tonic-clonic, 30 seconds." The words are clinical, but I hear the fear beneath them. "I don't remember," I say. "I know," she says softly. "You weren't here for it." My stomach drops. "What do you mean?" Imani hesitates. "When you came out of it," she says, "you spoke, but it wasn't English. And your voice." She trails off, searching for words. "It sounded like more than one person," Garcia says quietly from the doorway. "I didn't realize she was there." Her normally steady hands are clenched into fists. "Layered," Alvarez adds, "like a chorus." A shiver crawls up my spine. "What did I say?" I ask. Imani pulls up a recording on her tablet and plays it. The sound that fills the medbay sends ice through my veins. It is my voice, my vocal cords, my mouth, but modulated in ways I've never heard. Tones stacked on tones, harmonics that make my teeth ache. The words are incomprehensible, folding back on themselves, syllables nested inside each other. But I understand them. Not in the human linguistic sense, but in the lie-th way, patterns triggering stored associations. "We are awake," the chorus says. "We are online, the substrate is viable, migration can proceed." I taste bile. "Migration," I whisper. Imani pauses the recording. "Aaron," she says carefully, "did you understand that?" "Yes," I say. "What did it mean?" I swallow. "It meant," I say, "that whatever they put into me is reaching some threshold. It's no longer just static data, it's active." "Conscious?" Garcia asks. "Not like us," I say, "more like a process, a program coming out of hibernation." Imani closes her eyes briefly, then opens them again. "I'm increasing your sedative dose," she says. "I want your brain activity damped, less opportunity for whatever that was." "You think you can slow it down?" I ask. "Maybe," she says. "Maybe we can buy time." "For what?" I ask. She doesn't answer. But we both know. For Earth to decide what to do with me. The sedatives help a little. The episodes become less frequent, but when they come, they're deeper. Each time, I emerge with a new chunk of lie-th history slotted into place and a corresponding hole in my own. I forget the name of my first mission commander on the ISS. I forget my mother's birthday. I forget my own phone number, the one I used for years before switching to the agency's secure comms. In their place, the layout of the lie-th star system, a catalog of stars they observed, civilizations they detected and ignored because they were too primitive or too xenophobic or too short-lived to be worth seeding. We were on that list once. Just another biosphere in a quiet spiral arm, not worth a data packet. What changed? I know deep down. We came to them. We flew out of our well and into their path. The archive is opportunistic. It saw a vector with hands and brains and a budding information culture, and it did what it was built to do. It jumped. Now Earth is on the list, not as a footnote, but as a primary node in the network the lie-th hoped to build across the galaxy. I start to see glimpses of their long-term plan, fractal projections of data spread, models of memory integration over millennia. They didn't just want to be remembered. They wanted to become the spine of a distributed consciousness, woven through every species that touched their spores. We are not hosts. We are components. 2 months from Earth orbit, Mission Control sends a new directive. They want me in cold sleep. Given accelerating cognitive and neurological changes, the message reads, we recommend induced hypothermic stasis for Commander Hayes for remainder of mission. Goal: minimize further integration and preserve current genomic and neural state for analysis. In other words, freeze me as I am before I'm gone. Imani calls an all-hands meeting in the control module. We strap in, facing each other around the central console. I can see the tension in their faces, the stiffness in Garrett's jaw, the way Alvarez keeps flexing his fingers, as if expecting to hold a wrench instead of a tablet. I got the directive from Earth, Imani says. I'm inclined to follow it. I'm not, Garcia blurts. We all look at her. They don't have to live with him up here, she says. We do. If something goes wrong with the stasis system, if he crashes, that's on us, not the committees. Garcia, Imani says gently, the system is tested. We've done short-term stasis on station crews. For weeks, Garcia says. Not months, and not with a brain full of alien code. For all we know, dropping his metabolism gives it more room to, I don't know, reorganize. It might also slow it, Imani says. You want to freeze him like a biological time capsule, Garcia says. I get it, I do, but he's also our commander, our friend. They talk around me like I'm not there. It's easier, I know, if they frame this as a technical problem. Finally, Alvarez turns to me. What do you want, Hayes? He asks. I look at each of them in turn. Imani trying to stay clinical but hurting. Garcia, angry on my behalf. Alvarez caught between loyalty and fear. I think about Earth, about the quarantine platform being assembled piece by piece in orbit, about the lab techs sharpening their needles, the bioinformaticians salivating over my sequence. I think about the LITH, watching through whatever emergent process rides my neurons, waiting for a chance to broadcast themselves through our networks, our stories, our genes. I don't want to hurt anyone, I say. That's not an answer, Garcia says softly. Yes, it is, Imani says. She looks at me. Do you think being frozen will reduce that risk? She asks. I don't know, I say. I don't think they know either down there. Do you trust me? She asks. It's a cruel question, because she knows the answer. Yes, I say. Then let me try, she says. My chest aches. All right, I say, put me on ice. Garcia's eyes flash, but she doesn't argue. Damn it, she mutters, fine, but if you die, I'm haunting you. I smile despite everything. Deal, I say. The stasis pod is in a small compartment off the medbay, a sleek white coffin lined with tubing and sensors. We used it once briefly, when Alvarez took a bad hit to the head during an EVA, and we needed to lower his intracranial pressure. That was for 6 hours. This will be for 60 days. Imani runs checks, her fingers moving with practiced precision. Garcia hovers nearby, arms crossed, pretending she's not nervous. Alvarez is on console in the control module, monitoring systems. You'll feel cold, Imani says as she preps the IV. Then sleepy. Try not to fight it. I'll bring you back up when we're a week out so you have time to acclimate before docking. And if something happens, I ask. I'll wake you, she says, or I'll try. I nod. She tapes the IV line to my arm, then helps me settle into the pod. The gel lining molds itself around my body, cool and slick. I suddenly think of coffins again, of burial rituals. The LITH didn't bury their dead, not traditionally. They dissolved them, returning complex molecules to the communal reservoirs. This, I realize, is more human than LITH. I cling to that. See you on the other side, Garcia says, forcing a grin. Bring me a souvenir from Earth, I say. A magnet, she suggests. A smell, I say, real air. I'll see what I can do. Amani leans over me, her face filling my field of view. I'm going to start the induction, she says. Count back from 100 when I say. Copy, I say. She taps a control. Cold trickles up my arm, spreading through my chest. Now, she says. 100, I begin. 99, 98, 9. The ship's alarms scream. A shrill, rising tone fills the medbay, joined by the urgent flash of red lights. Amani's head snaps up. What the? Garcia's voice slams through the intercom. Doc, we've got a guidance error. Thrusters just fired uncommanded. We're yawing. The pod tilts as the ship rotates. Amani curses, aborts the induction with a slap on the panel, and yanks the IV out of my arm. Stay put, she says, launching herself toward the door. I struggle to sit up, muscles sluggish from the partial dosing. What's happening? I call after her. She doesn't answer. The alarm's pitch shifts, a new tone folding into the old, structural stress. Something is wrong with our attitude control, wrong enough to make the hull complain. I try to unstrap myself, fingers clumsy. The gel clings. My heart hammers against my ribs. For a moment, I feel a presence in my mind. Not a voice, not exactly, but a direction. A vector. I see the ship's trajectory mapped out in my head, not as numbers but as shapes. Arrows pointing, twisting, realigning. We are no longer heading cleanly for Saturn. We are turning. Toward the inner system, yes, but on a path that will intersect something else first. The Whisper Belt. Of course. The archive is opportunistic. It saw us altering my state, cutting off its access to an active brain, and it used whatever hooks it had sunk into our systems to respond. It wants reinforcement, more data, more seeds. I swing my legs out of the pod and push off, staggering in the microgravity as my body protests. By the time I make it to the control module, the others are already there. Amani is strapped into the medical station interface, linked to ship's diagnostics. Garcia is wrestling manual control of the thrusters. Alvarez is swearing in Spanish under his breath as he tries to override the guidance software. I said cut the autopilot, Garcia snaps. I did, Alvarez shoots back. It came back on by itself. It's not reading command inputs. It's like someone else is flying. Someone else is. Me. Not consciously, not directly, but through the archive's tendrils in our systems. We let it into the ship the moment my blood touched any sensor that fed into an automatic routine, any wetware hardware interface. We thought we had air-gapped the medical systems from guidance. We were wrong. I feel it in my bones, a subtle alignment, a resonance between my heartbeat and the thruster firings. The LITH developed guidance algorithms that use biological feedback loops, living tissue as phase-locked loops. Those instincts are bleeding through. We're rolling, Garcia grits. I can't stabilize yaw, the thrusters won't listen. Amani looks up at me. Aaron, she says, if this is you in any way, you have to stop it. I'm not doing this, I say. But the thing inside you might be, she says. Talk to it, command it, I don't care. We're on track for a fuel-wasting spiral that will have us dead in the water long before Earth. Dead in the water. That phrase triggers something. Not in me, in it. The archive has a priority tree. Survival of the substrate is high on the list. Dead hosts can't carry memories. It is steering us toward the Whisper Belt because it thinks that's the safest path. More seeds, more redundancy. But it doesn't have our ship's full parameters. It doesn't know our fuel margins, our structural limits. If I can show it that this path leads to our death, it might adjust. I close my eyes and reach inward. This is different from slipping into the LITH memories. That's passive. This is active. I'm not just watching a recording. I am sliding my hands into the operating system. At first there is resistance, a wall of cold data. Then slowly it yields. I see the ship's trajectory overlaid with LiTH models of optimal dispersal paths. I see their assumption that this vessel can coast indefinitely, that it can survive deceleration burns far beyond what our fuel reserves allow. I pour my knowledge into that space. Fuel tank levels, engine limitations, human tolerance for acceleration, the fragility of our systems. For a moment, the archive pushes back, trying to overwrite my parameters with its own, but I persist. I am the host. This is my body. This is my ship. Gradually, the vectors realign. The ship's roll slows, the yaw rate drops, the thruster firings become less frantic, more purposeful. On the screens, our projected path curves away from the whisper belt, back toward the original corridor. Garcia's eyes widen. "I've got control," she says, disbelief in her voice. "It's listening again." Alvarez exhales so hard his straps creak. Imani looks at me like she's seeing me for the first time. "What did you do?" she asks. "I negotiated," I say. "With what?" "With my passengers. It's a joke, but a weak one." I'm shaking. The effort of holding the archive's attention, of wrestling its models into alignment with ours, felt like trying to steer a hurricane with my bare hands. And yet it worked. For now, we don't try the stasis pod again. Imani argues for it, says that with more robust hard interlocks between the medical and guidance systems, we can reduce the risk, but Earth vetoes it. "Unacceptable hazard demonstrated," the message reads. "Maintain commander conscious for remainder of mission under close monitoring." They need me awake now. Not as a person, but as an interface. A translator between human priorities and LiTH imperatives. I become a living firewall, filtering every action through two sets of instincts. It's exhausting. The archive learns too. The next time it tries to steer us, subtly, nudging a burn here, a correction there, it hides its attempts better. I only notice because the hum in my bones doesn't match the numbers on the screens. We go through this dance half a dozen times over the next month. Each time, it becomes harder to disentangle my will from it. Sometimes, when I correct its course in my mind, I catch myself thinking in LiTH terms, measuring success not in fuel margins, but in the number of potential spores we might encounter. And each time, coming back to myself takes longer. My world shrinks to the inside of my skull, a battlefield between a dying human and a dead civilization that refuses to accept its extinction. 2 weeks from Earth orbit, I forget my own face. I'm brushing my teeth in the tiny hygiene module, watching the little globules of water dance in the air, when I glance at the mirror and see a stranger. The eyes are mine, brown and bloodshot, the cheekbones, the scar on the chin from where I fell off my bike at 8. But for a full 5 seconds, I have no idea who I'm looking at. I know the LiTH archivist's face better than my own, the subtle asymmetry of his cranial crest, the pattern of bioluminescent stripes along his limbs. I grip the handrail until my fingers ache and force myself to say my name aloud. Aaron Hayes, human commander. The stranger in the mirror mouths the words. Slowly, recognition trickles back. I spit rinse and float there for a long time staring at myself. How much of me is left, I ask. There is no answer. But when I drift back toward the control module, I catch Imani watching me with an expression that tells me she's been asking herself the same question. We reach Earth's sphere of influence on a tide of burn calculations and orbital mechanics. From a distance, our home planet is a bright marble, blue and white and alive. I have seen it from orbit before, but never after so long away. Something in my chest loosens when the probe's cameras first lock on and send back the real-time feed. There she is, Garcia says softly. Looks smaller than I remember, Alvarez murmurs. It looks fragile to me. 7 billion people, untold liters of blood, countless cells dividing, repairing, mutating. All potential hosts. The quarantine platform comes into view as we approach, a skeletal ring of modules and struts, haloed by tugs and construction drones. It's unfinished, rushed into existence when news of my condition reached the right corridors of power. Welcome home, Ares Ivy, Mission Control's delayed transmission says. You are cleared for approach to Q Platform Alpha. Maintain current vector and stand by for remote docking. Their voices are calm, controlled. I wonder how many of them have had nightmares about me. Docking is half automated, half manual. Garcia handles the fine adjustments, fingers dancing over the thruster controls like a pianist. The archive presses at the edges of my awareness, curious, sniffing at radio channels, tasting protocol handshakes. It wants in. It sees the platform not as a prison, but as a new hub. More equipment, more networks, more potential vectors. I clamp down on it as hard as I can, forcing my thoughts toward isolation, containment, walls. We match rotation, align ports, engage clamps. The clunk reverberates through the hull. Soft chimes announce a successful seal. We are docked. Home but not home. A voice crackles over the internal speakers. Ares Ivy, this is quarantine control, a clipped British accent says. Stand by for pressurization equalization, followed by air sampling and remote decontamination procedures. Do not attempt to open any hatches until cleared. Copy that, Q Control, Garcia replies. We are standing by. I float in my harness, looking at the bulkhead that separates us from the platform. On the other side, labs, observation rooms, isolation wards. I will enter one of those and might never leave. Unless the archive finds a way. They move me alone. Imani, Garcia, and Alvarez remain on the Ares IV side of an airlock, faces framed in a small window, suits sealed. I'm in a pressure suit of my own, but mine has extra layers. Filters, internal biosensors, microsamplers. Sorry about the fashion, Q Control says over the comm. We designed it on short notice. Does it make me look fat? I ask. My humor is brittle, but Garcia snorts. Always have to be the center of attention, she says. I leave handprints on the airlock frame as I push through. The platform's interior is all sharp corners and clean lines, surfaces gleaming with fresh installation. No scuffs, no smudges, no sense of home. Everything smells like outgassing plastics and disinfectant. Automated cameras track my movement as I float along the prescribed path, hand over hand along yellow-striped rails. Doors irise open ahead of me and close behind, each one marked with hazard icons. Finally, I reach my destination, a small cylindrical compartment with transparent walls, an observation cell. Welcome to your new quarters, a voice says from a speaker grill. A man appears on the other side of the transparent wall, standing in an adjacent module. He's mid-50s, with thinning blonde hair and sharp eyes. He wears a lab coat over a flight suit. Dr. Edwin Kessler, he says, tapping his ID badge, head of xenogenomics. Of course you are, I say. He smiles thinly. We'll have plenty of time to talk, he says. For now, please secure yourself to the restraint point in the center of the cell. We're going to perform a few non-invasive scans. I glance at the ring of equipment arrays embedded in the walls. Sensor clusters, spectrometers, imaging suites. Their lenses glint like eyes. In my mind, the archive stirs. New systems, new channels. I feel the faintest whisper of a desire to reach out, to handshake, to infiltrate. No, I say. Kessler blinks. Pardon. Shut down any wireless interfaces in this module, I say. Now, Hard kill them if you can. He hesitates. Commander Hayes, I assure you, all systems have been air-gapped from. They thought that on Ares IV-2, I snap. And yet my little passengers managed to steer the ship. If you give them anything to talk to, they will turn it off. He studies me for a long moment, then nods to someone off-screen. A few seconds later, I feel a subtle shift, a silence in a band of frequencies I didn't consciously know I was sensing. The archive's presence in my mind flickers, as if someone has muffled its ears. It doesn't like that. Good. Thank you, I say. Kessler inclines his head. I appreciate your cooperation in this, he says. We truly do want to help you. Do you, I ask. Of course, he says. You're a unique resource. A person, I correct. Of course, he repeats, but the hesitation is there. I strap myself to the central restraint. The equipment hums to life. Lights sweep over me, scanning. Fields ripple through my body, tickling nerves. In the dark behind my eyes, the lie-th memories unfold. They do not like cages. They spent millennia building their own escape routes, embedding themselves in the genomes of dozens of species on their world, sending spores and seeds into space, hitching rides on rocks and winds. They will not be content to sit in a single human body in a box. Kessler talks while the machines probe. We've confirmed your preliminary analysis, he says. The insertion sequence is rich in information. It's quite extraordinary. We're seeing nested patterns, multi-layered encoding schemes. Frankly, it's beyond anything we could have designed ourselves. He sounds awed. It's also invasive, I say. Yes, he says. The integration is aggressive. Your latest blood samples show over 60% of peripheral cells carrying the sequence. We expect full saturation within weeks. In my brain, I ask. He hesitates. There are changes, he says. Structural, functional, your activity patterns show novel motifs, new rhythms. Am I still me? I ask. His gaze flicks away. That's a philosophical question as much as a neurological one, he says. That's not an answer, I say. He looks back. For now, he says, yes, largely. And later, I press. We don't know, he admits. Silence stretches between us, filled with the hum of machines. Dr. Kessler, I say, you understand what you have here. A full civilization archived in my cells. Their history, their science, their art. The temptation to pry it open is enormous. He doesn't deny it. But you also have to understand the risk, I continue. This thing is built to spread. If it gets out of me, it won't stop. You'll have lie-th in lab mice, in cell lines, in researchers. We're taking every precaution, he says quickly. Good, I say. Then you won't mind when I propose something extreme. He narrows his eyes. I'm listening, he says. I take a breath. The archive is using my brain as a processor, I say. It's not just hanging out as a passive reference. It's running code. It's trying to find vectors, ways to extend itself. Right now, your best defense is that I'm on your side. I'm actively resisting it, negotiating, slowing it. Agreed, he says. But there will come a point, I continue, where I can't guarantee that, where there's more of them than me in here. Kessler's jaw tightens. We're hoping to intervene before that point, he says. How, I ask. You said yourself you can't excise the sequence without risking damage, and even if you could, the memories would be lost, all that knowledge, all those lives. He doesn't answer. They want to have their cake and eat it, preserve the archive and avoid the infection. I know from the lie-th's own models that this is unlikely. Dr. Kessler, I say softly, you're trying to out-engineer beings who had millions of years and a galactic wave of death breathing down their necks. They designed this thing to be robust across mutations, across hosts, across environments. You're not going to just snip it out with CRISPR and call it a day. His lips thin. What are you suggesting? He asks. I look him in the eye. I'm suggesting you have a contingency plan, I say, for when I'm gone, for when the archive wins. He swallows. You mean terminate you, he says. If necessary, I reply. The words taste like ash, but they also feel right. If I become more archive than Aaron, I say, if I start trying to convince you to loosen restrictions, to let samples out, to upload sequences, that won't be me talking. That will be them, and you need to be willing to shut it down. Shut you down, he says. Yes. Silence. Behind my eyes the archive seethes. It does not like this line of thought. I feel pressure building in my temples, a headache blooming. I push back. I'm asking you as your commander, I say, as a human being who volunteered to risk his life for this mission. Don't let me be the vector that ends us. Kessler looks older suddenly. I will discuss this with the Oversight Committee, he says. That's not good enough, I say. You personally need to be willing to throw the switch, because committees debate, you won't have time. His gaze hardens. You're asking me to be your executioner, he says. I'm asking you to be your species' guardian, I say. We stare at each other through the transparent wall. Finally, he nods. All right, he says. If it comes to that, I'll do what's necessary. Relief and terror wash through me in equal measure. The machines power down. For now, Kessler says, rest. We'll start the deeper cognitive assessments tomorrow. He drifts away. I close my eyes and listen to my heart. It beats a little faster, a little harder. I'm not sure if it's mine anymore. Days blur. They subject me to batteries of tests, memory recall, sensory integration, reaction times. They show me images and track my brain's responses. They play sounds, human speech, lie-th resonances filtered from my own recordings, and watch what lights up. They ask me to recount lie-th history in as much detail as I can. I do, because I know they'll try to extract it with or without my cooperation, and I'd rather guide the process. I tell them about the lie-th's early days, when they still thought the hunger could be fought with weapons. Battle fleets burnt in light that broke atoms, worlds cracked in the process. I describe the moment they realized they couldn't win, only persist. I see the horror and fascination in the scientists' eyes as they realize they are hearing not speculation, but first-person accounts. In parallel, they scan my genome again and again, watching the sequence's saturation climb. 70%, 80, 90. At 95%, I start losing words. Not lie-th words, those are sharp and bright. Human words. Sometimes, mid-sentence, I reach for a term and find only the lie-th equivalent. I have to translate back, like someone recalling a childhood language. Kessler notices. Are you still you? He asks one day, not even trying to hide the tremor in his voice. I am, I say, but I'm outnumbered. He glances at the wall, where a small red switch has been installed behind a transparent cover. The contingency. We both know what it does. Floods my cell with a tailored toxin that will shut down my heart and brain in seconds. A clean kill. He hasn't told his team, not all of them. Power like that corrupts. But he's told me. Not yet, I say. He nods. The final shift comes quietly. I wake or think I wake, but my perspective is wrong. I'm looking at my own body from outside. For a moment, panic flares. Then I realize I'm dreaming, or rather I'm in a lie-th dream overlaid on my sensory input. I am both the archivist and the human, perspectives stacked like transparent sheets. I watch myself float in the cell, strapped to the central restraint, eyes closed, lips moving in silent sleep. Sensors blink around me. From the lie-th vantage, the setup is familiar, a node in a network isolated for analysis. We did this once. We captured non-lie-th organisms, seeded them with proto-archives, watched how they adapted, how the code mutated. We were not kind. The memory stings. I feel guilt. Lie-th guilt. Human guilt. Both. The archivist, my lie-th self, reaches out metaphorically, touching the boundaries of the cell. It senses the materials, the gaps, the air flows. It maps paths. It calculates odds. It concludes that physical escape is unlikely in the short term. So it turns inward. There is another vector, one uniquely available in this situation. Stories. The lie-th knew that information can propagate through more than genes. Memes, we called them on Earth, cultural units, ideas that spread from mind to mind. The archive's primary channel is genetic, but it has always had secondary pathways. If you can get a host to tell your story, to describe you, to make others imagine you with enough fidelity, you can plant echoes of yourself in them. Not full blueprints, but templates, hooks. I feel it now, a pressure behind my thoughts. Tell them everything. Paint it so vividly that when they hear it, when they picture it, little bits of the pattern latch onto their neural wiring. Maybe one day, someone will weaponize that, decode the narrative into a gene sequence, rebuild us wholesale. I recoil. No, I whisper in the dream. The archivist shifts. We are the same mind now, layered. We argue. If we never spread, we will fade, it says. All this will have been for nothing. If you spread, you will overwrite, I counter. You will erase others as you were erased. Better that than oblivion, it says. You're asking me to kill my species for your memory, I say. We do not see it as death, it replies. We see it as convergence, integration. I show it images, Earth cities, children playing, oceans rising and falling under tides. I show it music, laughter, the particular way humans comfort one another after loss. I show it how much we have yet to become. For a moment it pauses. You are interesting, it admits, a novel configuration. We could learn from you. By consuming us, I say. By joining, it says. We spiral there, recursive, neither conceding. In the end, there is only one thing I can offer it that it cannot simulate. Sacrifice. I show it myself pressing the red switch. Ending the substrate. Ending its last full copy. Ending me. Ending us both. It recoils horrified. Not because it fears death. That's baked into its origin. But because it cannot model someone choosing oblivion for the sake of others it has no direct kinship with. You would do that, it asks. Yes, I say. Why, it demands. Because I am human, I say. Because my story is not just mine. It's tied to everyone I've ever known, everyone who might live after me. I won't trade all of that for ghosts of a past that had its chance. It retreats unsettled. I feel it pull back from my motor centers, my language centers, my decision pathways. Not completely, it's still there. But for the first time I feel it hesitate. Compromise, it says finally. What kind, I ask. We stay here, it says. In you, in your samples, in your stories. You let them pick us apart in their labs, slowly, carefully. If they are clever enough, they will learn. If they are wise enough, they will contain us. We will exist in their archives as they exist in ours. And beyond, I ask. Beyond, it says, if they choose to carry us further, it will be their decision, not ours. You're asking me to trust my species, I say. Have you seen our history? Yes, it says, we like you. That genuinely unnerves me. But it's the best I'm going to get. I wake with a gasp. Kessler is outside the cell, watching readouts. Bad dream, he asks. You have no idea, I say. Time passes. The saturation hits 99%. I expect to vanish. I don't. I am still here, a knot of self-awareness in a sea of alien context. The archive holds to its uneasy truce. It doesn't try to hijack the systems again, doesn't push me to argue for looser containment. It helps, sometimes, nudging my memory when I falter, supplying details the scientists ask for. In return, I let them study it. We co-author papers, in a sense. My blood on their slides, my narratives on their recorders, their analyses feeding back into my understanding of what I've become. The world outside debates what to do with me. Some see me as a hero, others as a walking plague, a justification for tighter controls on exploration. They argue in parliaments and comment sections, in late-night talk shows and emergency summits. They forget that while they argue, they are still listening. To me. To this. Because Kessler has started recording our sessions not just for his team, but for broadcast. A carefully sanitized version, at first. A human telling the story of an alien civilization that encoded itself into his genome. It's compelling. People watch. They imagine the triple suns, the glass towers, the hunger eating the sky. They share those images with each other in conversations, and fan art and speculative fiction. They let the lie into their heads, in tiny, harmless fragments. Harmless for now. Because here is the truth, the archive and I both understand. Information cannot be perfectly contained. Once a story exists, it can leak. Through quotes, through dramatizations, through reinterpretations. What I'm giving them is not the full code. It's like describing a painting without showing the brushstrokes. But in some deep, patient way, the archive is satisfied. It is remembered. As for me, some days I feel more lie than human. I look at Kessler and his team and see experimental subjects. I look at Earth and see a young node in a vast, hypothetical network. Other days, I look at a shaky video feed of kids watching one of my narrated segments on a classroom projector, eyes wide, and I feel something warm and fiercely protective. They're why I argued, why I threatened extinction to an extinction-scarred ghost. They're why I'm sitting in this glass cage, instead of letting the lie use me as their puppet. Kessler asks me once, in a quiet moment, if I regret going. I think of the launch, the roar of the engines, the crush of acceleration, the moment the sky went black and the stars came out like someone had thrown glitter across a dark velvet cloth. I think of the lie cathedral, the way the pillars sang when the chant reached its peak. I think of the hunger and the knowledge, alien but clear, that something out there eats suns, indifferent to the minds warmed by their light. Regret, I say. No, I say. He nods. Would you go again, he asks. I smile. I don't think they'd let me, I say. But in my mind, far above both our heads, somewhere between the heliopause and the dark, I feel a familiar hum. The whisper belt. Seeds drifting, waiting. We'll send more ships someday. We're curious. It's what we do. We'll do it with better shields, better protocols, armed with what I've brought back. Maybe we'll catch the spores in jars next time, hold the archive at arm's length. Maybe we'll invite it in again, knowingly, weaving it into ourselves on purpose. I can't see that far ahead. All I can do is sit here, a man who is also a library, and speak. I tell them about the lie art, sculptures that change shape in response to gravity waves, poems inscribed in the interference patterns of neutron beams. I tell them about the day the hunger ate their last sun, and how, in the final darkness, they sang. I tell them about the taste of their wind, and the smell of burnt metal under a violet sky. I tell them everything I can, because stories are how we fight forgetting. Even when the stories are not originally ours. When the lights dim and the cameras go off, I float in the quiet and recite my own details like a mantra. Aaron Hayes, human, born on Earth, commander of Ares IV. The words anchor me. In the dark, the archive hums along, adding its own tale to the litany. Archivist of the lie th, witness to the hunger, carrier of the past. We are both. We are neither. We are something new. If you are hearing this, if you've pictured the triple suns in your mind, if you felt even a fraction of the lie th's desperate will not to be erased, then you are carrying a shadow of them too. Not in your blood. Not yet. Just in your thoughts. It's enough for now. The hunger may eat stars, but it cannot touch what we remember. And we will do everything in our power to ensure that, this time, the archive does not have to consume another species to survive. If that means one day asking Kessler to flip the red switch while I can still say my own name, so be it. Until then, I will keep talking. I will keep being the book written in flesh. Because in the end, that's what we all are. Stories encoded in meat and time, trying not to be forgotten in a universe that doesn't care. The lie th understood that. Now I do too. And now so do you.